At the end of the day, I'm just trying to be funny. Like, I really am aiming to make people laugh.
Even if it's just visiting a friend's house, you want to be a good guest. You don't want to leave and then have them be like, never again.
You know, as a creator, you may not have the most money. You may not even have the most support. Maybe the first few things you make, people don't like, and they let you know the way the internet does. But I think that it's not as if the most popular comedians that we reference when we think about stand-up comedy were a flash in the pan. We think about the people who stayed. And I think they stayed because of what was built around them and what they did with it. And so I definitely see the internet as something that could be just as dangerous as it is beneficial, but I think it's about how you use it. I don't think anyone's ever worse off for starting to do the thing that it is they want to do.
We'll talk about comedy in a second, but I want to talk about platforms, because I'm old enough to have grown up in a world where, a night spot on Johnny Carson or the pilot of a sitcom was the way that a comedian broke through. That would have been your launch pad. And now it seems that in the world of social media, that's just a very different trajectory for comedians. How do you think the platforms, the delivery system, if you like, for us all to get our comedy has changed in the last 30 years?
I mean, some of it is just now it's sort of direct to consumer, as opposed to before you had the networks that worked as your sort of buyer, and then it was a sort of one size fits all approach. That's why so few people could break through, and why breaking through to the masses was like this instant success, which still, like, it wasn't, I suppose, because there was only a golden era of each thing. So there's only so long that something gets you something before everyone recognizes it, and then everyone's trying to do it, and then it doesn't do what it used to. And so I look at trajectories and how to advance a career, whether it's comedy or anything else, the same way I look at like stock tips. It's like by the time I find out, it's too late.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
like
Well,
if
we're taking our stock tips from the guy who thinks he should be giving us stock tips. We're bust.
And I think that it works that same way with comedy, where by the time someone can give you a template of everything to do to get where you want to go, that thing is probably outdated. And that's also for the best, because I think that now with the internet, the people that find you now are staying with you because of who you are, whereas the people that found you before, I can't necessarily speak to what everyone's career was like in a sort of like Johnny Carson or Jay Leno era, but I imagine that they stick with you because of the moment that they got swept up in when you were
Mhm.
being essentially created, you know? And now I think it's more, no, I specifically like this one comedian, maybe. Like, out of all the comedians that there might be one or two that people like, and then that's it, you know?
But you're interesting because you're a crossover, right? I mean, you've got this huge success on social media, but you also clearly see a value, as you have just done, in hosting The Daily Show, in being on traditional television. So there must be something that is still bringing you as a comedian, even in the kind of crazy social media era that we live in 2025.
Sure, because I think that there is something to be said for old systems and everything that they do right continuing to still be good for you. So there's the idea that being on TV, sort of quote unquote, isn't what it used to be, right? And I think that's just because with the internet people have more options. It doesn't mean though that these platforms that are either like legacy names or still have a very wide reach aren't um incredibly influential into a person's career. That legacy format, whatever it is, whether it's news or it's TV, it's sitcoms, whatever, it's very important to remember that that is like the foundation laid so that I can go out with my friends and shoot a sketch and try to make it TV quality. It's like that's the thing that people don't really realize about independent media, even the people in independent media, is that their standard for quality is the thing that sometimes they're casting out as what's over. You know, I think that there's this idea that people have that the independent creators and independent media will one day take over everything. And I don't actually think that that will be what happens. I think that independence will gain more market share in the future, but I also think that you cannot understate what people get out of traditional TV, traditional movies, um, like traditional news and everything. Because as much as we like to bash it and we think that they make bad decisions and we love to rag on them, whether it's in the press or just like in our rooms, I think that we still like the idea that there's a big thing a person could do. And when it comes to comedy and how comedians move forward, I think recognizing that your audience has options and you also have options to find your audience, and then coupling that with what you want to do. There are some people who all they want to do is be like a sitcom star. That is still a viable way forward. Now, whether your sitcom is you starting a web series with your friends as a proof of concept and then doing it as long as it takes to do it to get noticed, so that way one day hopefully you can get the money of a production company and the back end of a production company to do it on a more professional scale, that doesn't mean that it's one or the other. It can be both.
You've said in interviews that you don't think that social media has changed your relationship to the actual comedy, the genre of comedy. But uh, uh, I was wondering whether just the kind of, the feedback from social media changes comedy in some ways. I mean, the instant nature of what people can tell you they like or don't like, or what's on their minds, or they want to know what are you thinking about what they're thinking about? Does that really not change the way you approach the comedy?
Yeah, I think it can definitely influence you immensely if you are submersed in feedback. I think that there are constructive amounts of feedback to engage with, and then there's you asking for trouble. Do you know what I mean? Like then you're almost fishing through all the nice things people say until a negative thing is said, or you're going through all the hate until you find a nice thing, or you so I think that
Do you ever do
because
that?
no, I really do my best not to do that. Like I do look at comments. I'm not gonna act like I don't. And I do respond to comments sometimes, especially when people are going through something and whether it's something I talked about is resonating with them or the last video that I put out what like helped them get through a hard time. It's like I definitely want to acknowledge that, but I try not to. I think I find the best relationship with the audience is in person. Like a good meet and greet will let you know what needs to evolve about your set far more than putting that set out there and then reading all the comments and then assuming that everyone that typed something was being fully present and articulate with their point. Like people are ready with opinions. You don't need to
Yeah.
wait until they're
Yeah.
online. You know what I mean? Like people will tell you to your face what they approve of and don't approve of about what you're doing.
It's kind of wonderfully old school.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I once again, I think everything with a system that has been established that is worth it, you have to keep.
Kind of thinking about the whole social media environment and TikTok and the people that are finding you there and finding you on YouTube. How do you is there a blessing and a curse in the sense that obviously some of this is algorithms. The algorithms can expose you to a much wider audience, can give you people who might not have found you otherwise. But does it also mean that that audience is potentially more fickle? I mean that it could be just an algorithm that drives them to you one day and to another comedian the next day, and that's the way algorithms work. That there's something about that. Is there something about the loyalty of the audience that is tested in the social media algorithm world?
I mean, potentially, but I think that only happens if you get obsessed with numbers. And I hold like two things very top of mind when I think about any form of audience or influence. I think about one, nobody owes me anything. Just because you came to a show or you watched a video doesn't mean you have to watch the next one. It doesn't mean that you have to come to the next show. I hope you do. I work as hard as I can to make it so you would want to, but you don't owe me that thing. And then the second thing is that if you are focused on the actual practice of what you're doing that you end up putting online, you'll make better things to put online. So at the end of the day, the most important thing is the show that I'm doing that night and the people that are there. and I
Mm.
do that show for them. And then, because I believe in the things that I'm saying and because I think that other people will enjoy them, I put them up online for the people who didn't make it to the show. But whether 1 million people watch it or 1,000 people watch it, the fact that the people at the show had the best time possible and connected with me, I connected with them, and we reached understanding is both like the most it's both the most powerful and the most beneficial relationship as far as audience goes. I think when we think about internet audiences being fickle, I think it's around things that are not setting up community. And I think that
Mm.
community, both in person and online, is incredibly important, and it's something that people are seeking.
Are there things about the internet that worry you in terms of yourself as a comedian and what you might become?
I think that as long as I stick to the attitudes I have now and the things I'm doing now, I don't have too much to worry about. I think at some point you have to realize what is what is yours and what is not. And I think that when you are becoming known for the first time and all the feelings that come with that, you might trick yourself into thinking that it's all for you and it's just because it's you, when really it's a moment. And I think that what you do with that moment is very important. And if you handle it well, and if you carry yourself well, then you establish yourself for a long time. Because it's not as if the most popular comedians that we reference when we think about stand-up comedy were a flash in the pan. We think about the people who stayed, and I think they stayed because of what was built around them and what they did with it. And it really doesn't matter what you do. This goes for comedy, but it goes for every type of creative output. Because I know that people now are very worried about AI. They're very worried about being replaced before they even get started. And I think that being afraid of the tool and that stopping you from getting started is like wanting to build a table and just staring at a hammer and being like, well, I mean, the hammer can do it better than me. And it's like, yes, but the hammer also needs you to do anything, you know? Like AI is not AI is being used. It's not coming in here with its own sentient idea of like, I'm gonna make the next best blockbuster all by myself. A person is behind that thing. And so we, as a creator, you may not have the most money. You may not even have the most support. Maybe the first few things you make, people don't like, and they let you know the way the internet does. But I think that there is a like a badge of honor around perseverance that we don't really talk about until somebody's won the Academy Award, or until they've won or until they're at the top. But there are plenty of people in the middle and a ton of people working their way up that have that perseverance that have already started. And I don't think anyone's ever worse off for starting to do the thing that it is they want to do.
Oh my God, Josh, I wish the rest of the planet could be as sane as you are about all of this.
I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I could still snap. Who knows?
You haven't done it yet and you're thinking about it hard, which is half the battle. Josh Johnson, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. It's nice to meet you.